What's up, you guys? Century Productions here, and welcome to the Watchtower series, where I do a deep dive into my toy photography, my ACBA, my articulated comic book art, whatever you want to call it. Basically, I just show you guys a more intricate look at my setups. Some are crazier than others, but I guess you'll just have to watch and find out and see what I'm up to. I have taken probably about 2-3 weeks off right now. I kind of haven't really been posting much on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok. I rarely use TikTok, but just been kind of taking a break from social media. I think it's a really important thing to do now every so often. It kind of helps cultivate some new ideas and maybe lets you put some more time into some of your other hobbies. And I have kind of picked up well, I wouldn't say I picked it up. I've always been into comics, but I've been really reading comics the last, month and a half, 2 months. And whenever I took my little break from social media, I just got super heavy into comics. So it's only natural that I come back, and I'm doing a recreation of probably one of the most iconic Amazing Spider-Man covers. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 50 with cover art from John Romita Sr., and this is the first appearance of the Kingpin in comics. And it's also the storyline of Spider-Man No More, where he gives up his suit and stops being Spider-Man. So this is something I've kind of wanted to do for a long time, but like I said, since I got more into comics in the last month or so, I really wanted to recreate this and just do a good job of it. Let me show you guys a little bit more of what I'm working with. This is a cutout. So this is pretty cool. I've already taken the shot, and I'm going to have my buddy Lord Tuantis on Instagram. He's going to shop some of the text in for me from the actual cover. He is just a wizard with Photoshop, so he's actually going to make this thing really come to life with all the text, the Amazing Spider-Man logo at the top. We'll have the comic code in the top right, Spider-Man No More text, of course the issue number and everything, and to the top left. It's really going to come alive when he gets a hold of it. But what the main thing we got to focus up with on our end right here is making sure that we're trying to recreate the cover as best as we can to the original artwork from John Romita, which is what I was trying to do. Now this little cutout is actually from a recreation from John Romita's son, John Romita Jr., where he took a stab at doing this cover. I have the comic around here somewhere. I forget. It was one of the newer Amazing Spider-Man runs, but this is like the homage reprint cover from his son, which is really dope. And it's pretty cool because I was able to get this cutout, and it was in HD, high quality, so very nice cutout. This is just a normal Marvel Legends figure, so this cutout is very small. This is actually one of the smallest cutouts I've ever done, and it's also a cutout that I did that I haven't been doing cutouts for a long time now. Most of the cutouts I use I made a long time ago. So I actually kind of whipped out my X-Acto knives and actually got to work on this one, and it was pretty quick actually. You just have to make sure you got a really sharp X-Acto knife, and basically what this is just tacked on right here, as you can see that blue right there. That's just blue plumber's tack, just tacked onto a little flight stand. And then this is just basically a normal piece of printer paper, just glue sticked onto some construction paper. I use the kind of thicker construction paper from Hobby Lobby. So yeah, and it just keeps its shape, and it looks really great. The name of the game right here is to really make sure that we get some nice lights on this cutout right here, and make sure that we can see all the colors, the blue, the yellow of his shirt, all that. And then at the same time, we're trying to make sure that this Spider-Man shows up as red as possible. So let me show you where some of my lights are situated so you can kind of get a better idea of how I did that, even though I do wish it came out even more red like it is in the cover. This is the best I was able to do. Alright, so as you can see, it's very red. Even though the last angle we just saw, we could clearly see the cutout. It is a little bit harder to see it right here. It's obvious it's right here. In case you couldn't use your 2 eyes and see it right there. But like I said, this is a very small area of what we're photographing here. We're just photographing from the cutout up till just right about right above his head. Actually, that's not true. I'm actually going to give it a little bit more space so I can put all the, or I can have Jorge put all the text and everything in the top there, Lord Tuantis. So it's going to be really cool. I think, you know, recreating covers is like, oh man, dude, it's just like some of my favorite photography. So the fact that I'm able to finally do this iconic cover is really cool. So we can see where all the lights are. We're obviously, when you're using a lot of colored lights, like the reds, I've got the red right here, red right there, and then we've got more of a yellowish red right here to kind of hit on the top here. The reason why this one is higher up is I really wanted to light the white of his eyes. I think it comes through in the photograph pretty well. But anyways, back to what I was saying. When you're using a lot of these colored lights, these are the Ulanzis, you got to make sure that you kind of balance it out with some of this white light. And of course we needed the white light too to light up the cutout. So if you can see all these colored lights, for the most part I have them all behind the cutout because I don't want any of this red showing up on the cutout, because then the cutout's just going to show red. We want to keep the cutout's original color. Meanwhile, we want to make Spider-Man as red as possible. So we've got the lights coming from underneath him, we got the lights coming from overhead, and we're making sure that none of these 4 Ulanzi lights are hitting this cutout except for the 2 white lights in front. So I think I did a pretty good job of that. As you can see in the cover, you know, Spider-Man's almost entirely red, so there's not any of the black in his costume showing, but I wasn't really able to make that happen. I would really have to blast him with red light, and it just like would seem, in my opinion, just look a little too oversaturated. So for what it is, I think it works out really well. We get the idea that he's supposed to be very red. Of course, we're working with a red background, and then right here I have 2 of my E-Mart lights. These are the lights I use to cover a wide area, and basically there's these little filters that you can slide off of them. And these are the yellow filters, because if you actually look at the cover, you can see that he actually has the background. There's like a yellow hue kind of pushing back onto the Spider-Man. So we're basically lighting up the background yellow. And the cool thing about this is that this yellow is not only lighting the background, but it's also lighting a little bit of the Spider-Man and giving him like a little bit of a backlight towards the camera. So it kind of works out pretty well. So yeah, you just kind of, you know, have to play around with setups and everything, and once you do it enough, you actually kind of start, you know, just like preemptively just setting stuff up where you kind of know what it needs to be. And then like after a while, it's just like muscle memory, man. Just like doing anything for a long period of time, you just basically just know where to set stuff up. And then of course, like, you'll turn on your camera and you'll know that, oh, I gotta readjust some stuff. Like originally this whole setup, I had it like closer right here, but basically these 2 lights were showing up in my shot. So basically what I had to do is push it all a little bit further back. That way that these 2 lights were no longer showing up in my shot. But dude, it ended up all working out. Like from start to finish, it was like maybe an hour of work. I wouldn't really call it work, but it maybe took me a whole hour to set everything up and actually shoot. And usually it's not like that, but I think since I've just been, like, I haven't taken a shot in a while, I've just been thinking about this shot for so long, I think it just kind of knew how to set everything up, and it was just all there. Anyways, I've talked about this forever. You guys are going to be able to get to see the finished version that's already been shopped and everything, which I'm jealous, because it's going to be a while before I see it. So let's check it out. Alright, I am back on the table, literally taking up the entire table with this setup. I'm using a diorama here. Man, I can't remember off the top of my head the guy who made this diorama, but I've mentioned him in other videos. But it's a really cool diorama. It's technically like, I would say it's like 2-3 dioramas, and they kind of all fit together to make this one giant diorama you see right here. But the cool thing is you can break it up, it's modular, and you can, you know, take pictures of just like certain pieces of it. Usually when I'm shooting with this diorama, I usually just shoot this little hallway right here, and then towards the back over here there's like a little fence that plugs in. But it was actually made to go all the way back to where you see this garage, which you guys can see way back there. Let me see if I can have it focused. So you can see it's very detailed, it's very cool. But typically I'd just shoot something either in that like garage loading dock area, or I would come back down here and shoot something in this like alleyway kind of place. But I threw it all together. We're taking up all the space. Obviously we're shooting with Jamie Madrox here, Multiple Man. This figure just came out not too long ago. It's actually the first appearance of Multiple Man from Fantastic Four. I forget which issue it came from, but so it's the first appearance. So I know this is not the appearance of Multiple Man that everybody really wanted. You know, I know a lot of people really got down with the X Factor version and got a bunch of him. I have a couple of them. But I've always really liked this version of Multiple Man. I think, you know, the more modern one is basically this outfit, but without the headpiece and like a trench coat. But I really like this this kind of suit for Multiple Man. And I'm not going to make the mistake I made last time where I only got one extra Multiple Man. So these things popped up on Amazon and oh man, it was just all bad. So I ended up getting 7 of them. I'm actually very happy with that number. I'm not getting any more of these. I've always said, like, for army builders, I think 5 is enough, because way back in the day I got like 22 shield agents, and I was like, this is like way too many shield agents. But for Multiple Man, I was like, 5 is good, but I'm just gonna push it a little bit further and grab a couple more. And as we can see with this setup, it's showing up very bright in this front area right here, but in the actual photo it'll be a little bit darker. I'm trying to go for like a night scene, try to give off that vibe, and then have these lights that are in the windows actually shine through and give some of the figures here some like contour lighting and side lighting, stuff like that. But I tried my best. The name of the game for this shot was really posing. I really tried my best to kind of make each and every single one of the dupes here to stand out on their own. If you guys can take a look at the back 2 guys, one of them's like fake punching the other guy, and he's got the angry expression. Man, if they had, real quick, if they had just given us like one more extra facial expression, it would have been perfect. It really would have been perfect. But it only gave us 2, so I kind of had to play around with that. But yeah, we can see in the back those 2. One of them's like fake hitting the other guy, and he's got the angry head on. And then the 2 guys in front of those are just basically walking. Then we got the main guy right here, like the main dupe. What do they call that? They call it Jamie Madrox Prime or Multiple Man Prime. That's my Multiple Man Prime. He's going to be the focal point, the one with the bat. If you guys have ever seen, I know I'm rambling here, but if you guys have ever seen The Warriors, this is kind of what this shot reminds me of, is like The Warriors. I actually had that movie on while I was taking this shot, because this whole process of putting all this stuff up, like this whole diorama and then posing all these figures, took a while. I've been at this for about probably like 3-4 hours, but I finally got the shot. But yeah, this is kind of, I guess, inspired by The Warriors, and I threw it on just to kind of get some inspiration. And yeah, it's just like a little gang of dupes, dude, walking down an alleyway about to beat some dude's ass or beat other people's asses, or maybe they're like doing good things. I don't know. So you can interpret it however you want, but let's take a different angle and take a look at how massive this setup really is. Alright, well, there's clearly not enough space in my room to truly show you like the massive scale of all this, and my camera using a macro lens is it's a little bit more zoomed in than like your normal lens, so I can't really get you like the wide kind of view of everything, but this kind of gives you a good idea of how far back. From the front Multiple Man all the way to the back here, I would say that's probably good almost 4 feet, maybe like 3'10", something like that. It's a lot of space. It's a pretty big diorama. I really wanted to show off the depth in this shot, even though I'm kind of shooting from an above angle looking down. Initially I was going to shoot from a lower angle, but it was kind of hard to get all of these guys in and be able to see all of them clearly, so I kind of realized that if I just like angled up a little bit higher, I'd be able to get all of them in the shot, and I think it worked out pretty well. But yeah, we're playing with the depth, playing with the posing. If you guys really look at the poses on these guys, I really tried my best to, like I said, make all of them a little bit different. I wanted to make sure that since I had them all in walking poses, I don't want them all to be in the exact same walking pose, so you got to alternate the legs and make sure when you're posing them next to each other that you don't have the exact same leg stance next to another guy with the same leg stance. So just trying to mix it up a little bit, make it seem natural. Getting all these guys into walking poses was actually pretty difficult. But luckily these figures are pretty articulated, so it wasn't like too bad. But overall, this is a very fun setup, very cool. If you can see all the way back there, it's just a lot of lights, a lot of little props, but very fun shot, cool shot. I'm happy I kind of got this out of my system, move on to something else, but I'm very happy with how this came out. So let's check it out. Alright, so back on the table with a little Iron Man armory kind of shot here. This is heavily influenced by the 1994 Iron Man animated show intro, where we see Iron Man. I think he doesn't have a shirt on in that part, but he has the armor kind of come to him in like a very similar like cylinder spinning thing. So I tried recreating that. With this is just construction paper. I just cut out strips of it and then tacked it together on the top. Obviously this one can't really spin because of the bottom here, but just kind of creating the illusion. And in the show intro, he has just a bunch of TV screens behind him, but obviously I didn't really have any way of being able to put that as the background. So, you know, I just grabbed my handy dandy toy box Hall of Armor from Disney. I think this was a Disney store exclusive. You could find it on Disney.com. Like I said, it's the Iron Man Hall of Armor Disney toy box. Whenever I post a picture using this setup, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, what is that, man? Where'd you get that?" Disney toy box, man. So they're pretty cool. They're very inexpensive. I have absolutely no idea if they still sell them or what the price is going for them, but these were meant for like little kids. They came with a pack of 5 of these little slots. Cool thing about it though is that you can actually kind of you know, put them together and stack them on top of each other and make a pretty cool little Hall of Armor if you wanted to. So you have the option, and then obviously they fit those 6-inch Iron Man figures very well. So that was what I decided to go with for my background here. And I think it's looking pretty cool. I got a couple lights that are a little bit higher to kind of illuminate the entire background here. I know you guys probably can't really see how far up this goes, but to illuminate the background here. But you know, our main focal point, of course, is Tony, who is kind of kit bashed together with a couple different pieces. I was kit bashing my Iron Man, the 80th anniversary Iron Man. I got him kind of right here, kind of taken apart, and as I was popping out the thigh, I broke it. So I'm a little upset about that, but luckily I thought ahead and I bought multiples of this figure. I liked it for the Iron Man figures. If I really like the Iron Man, what I'll do is I'll get multiples of them, and I'll keep one of them in like my little Iron Man bin, which is mainly used to just kind of fill up these Hall of Armor sets, and then I'll have another one for my main display. So luckily I did that with this figure. I think this is kind of cool though, just how this looks like unassembled, but I used the Ulysses S. Claw from the Black Panther 2018 movie and kind of just kit bashed a little Iron Man figure here. This is kind of trying to give the vibe that he is pulling the suit together on him, just like in the intro if you guys haven't seen it. It's basically this exact same thing. And then I used these little smoke kind of effects that came with, I can't remember which Iron Man they came with, but they're like little smoke effects that are supposed to wrap around his arm, and I'm kind of using them as effect pieces to kind of give the idea that the suit's coming to him or appearing out of thin air. Something like that. I don't really know exactly how we're doing, or how we're kind of pushing that idea out, but hopefully it makes sense. So let me switch up the camera angle a little bit so you guys can see a little bit more of the setup. Alright, so you got a better idea of how big the setup is. It just kind of goes up another row of the Iron Man Hall of Armors, but I gotta tell you, man, these sets are really fun to play with. When I have enough space to display pretty much all my Marvel Legends, I'll definitely keep these Hall of Armors on display and display some Iron Man figures like that. But for right now, I kind of just keep it in storage and just pull it out when I want to take a picture of it. I don't take a picture of this setup too often, usually like once or twice a year. But it's always fun to just, these shots are always received really well because, you look at it and you're like, oh my God, look at all the Iron Man armors. And then everyone gets to look into the background and see, which of their armors is their favorite. And if they say anything other than Silver Centurion armor, they're dumb, because that's clearly the best Iron Man armor. I'm just joking, of course, but that is my favorite armor. So pretty much any Hall of Armor set scene I set up, the Silver Centurion is always going to be in it because it's just always been my favorite armor. So yeah, pretty cool little setup, right? This is pretty cool. I like how it's all being lit up. I've got this light right here. This is to kind of give him some light and light up his face. And then I actually had a light on top of my camera too that I was using, a Ulanzi, one of these lights that I have on the side right here. So yeah, it's, when you get really cool dioramas or pieces like this that companies make, it makes your shots a lot easier. It makes it a lot funner to take them. And I didn't have to worry about the background. I just kind of had set up all these Iron Man figures, and I did pose them. I did make sure that I posed each of these and that their legs were straight and everything like that. But other than that, it wasn't really that much work other than just kind of putting this together. And I think this is a Fortnite base from a Jazzwares Fortnite figure. I've sold all the Jazzwares Fortnite figures, but I've kept that base. But I know some people will probably recognize it and be like, oh, what is that, a launch pad from Fortnite? I'd be like, yes. Yes, it is. So yeah, and then we got these little wires. These are just USB wires that I just, I was looking at the floor and it just looked a little flat to me, so I added these wires down here to just kind of, he's working in his lab. He's got some wires powering up this little contraption he's got right here. So very cool. Yeah, so let's check out the shot. Alright, so I know I said I just finished and we were going to take a look at the completed shot, and we did see that shot, but, I was sitting there looking at it for a minute and I was just like, I think I could do better than this. It was just shot very straight on, and I wanted to make it a little bit more dynamic, so I took a minute, I went back, looked at the intro of the animated series and saw that when he's putting on the armor's getting put on in this little cylinder thing, it's actually kind of shot at this angle where it's not completely shot straight on, it's more at an angle, a little bit pulled back. I turned the diorama a little bit to the right. I changed the positions of some of the Iron Men. Usually when people would take a look at the shot, they probably wouldn't even notice the stuff that I was noticing in it, but I noticed when I was taking a look at the shot that I had, let me see if I can give you guys an example. I had this figure right here, which is the retro Iron Man, and one of his hands is an open palm, and I had that initially right back here. If you guys can't see, it's right back here, and the open palm was just kind of throwing me. When Iron Man has his suits in the armory, they all have closed fists. They're supposed to be shut down. So I kind of switched it up and I put the Ultimate Iron Man back here, who has two open palms, so it's a little bit more symmetrical. It just made a little bit more sense to me. And then another thing I changed on this shot is I initially had the stealth suit Iron Man over here on the viewer right. And I had this other Iron Man back here, and the colors were kind of clashing with his leg. Now I want to make sure that this leg right here is very visible and you can clearly see it. So when I had the other Iron Man armor back there, the colors were kind of blending together. So it was actually a pretty simple fix. I'm surprised I didn't realize it sooner. I just kind of stuck the stealth suit back there. It's kind of a win-win because you get to see the stealth suit a little bit better in that position. And now since he's blue, it's not clashing with the colors of this Iron Man leg. It's just like the little things you start noticing once you start taking shots more and more. I'm very happy that while I still had the setup up, I still went back and changed just a couple things to make the photo different enough to where I liked it, and I also kind of boosted up the light all around. I just wanted to make sure everything was very visible. So overall, now that I have gone back and made a couple tweaks, I'm much happier with this setup and this shot now. So let's take a look at the final shot. Alright, so we're back on the table with another comic recreation, homage, whatever you want to call it. This is, of course, inspired by Iron Man number 200, the first appearance of this silver Centurion Iron Man armor, which I told you guys in the last shot was my favorite Iron Man armor. And this is a comic cover that I've been wanting to recreate for a very long time. It's very iconic, I think. I think when people think of the Silver Centurion armor, they think of this cover with Ironmonger. This Ironmonger figure came out way back in 2013, so it's 10 years old now, but I think this figure still really holds up. You know, of course they based the Mandroid Build-A-Figure off of this figure right here. They based the Crimson Dynamo. There's several figures that they took pieces of this initial figure and they came out with other Build-A-Figures. So still a very cool Marvel Legend. I think it could be a little bit bigger, but it's very posable. It's very nice, and I'm glad that I still have it laying around, and I really like the color. It's very shiny, so it was a little hard, you know, playing around with the lights. And you know, when I was initially going to do the shot, I was thinking, oh, this should be pretty easy. Just pose them up correctly and everything's all good, right? Well, you know, classically that's never the case, because the background was really just stumping me. If we can take a look at the actual cover, we see they got this like green shit in the background, which I don't even really know. Maybe I forget exactly where they're fighting. It's been a while since I've read the comic, but I don't know what all that weird green shit is back there, but I was looking for stuff that I had that maybe would work, and it was really hard to find stuff, so I ended up just pulling these cutouts. I've used these on a couple other shots. These are actually from Watchmen, funny enough, from Dr. Manhattan's lab, and I just kind of got them sat right up against this black felt, which, you know, I use black felt for when I want to shoot stuff that has black backgrounds, because, you know, the light doesn't really reflect very well off of it. So if you have lights kind of pointed near it, usually the light won't reflect off of it, so it makes your life a little bit easier when you're taking your shot. And you know, these ended up working out. It's not as green as I would like it. Of course, if you guys can see the two green lights coming in from the left and the right, I've just taken some Ulanzis and tried my best to bring that green out, but I don't think it's working out too good. But you know what? I guess this is just kind of my rendition of this iconic cover. So, you know, a little bit of a century twist or flair or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm making it my own. I'm plagiarizing it, but I'm changing up the words, you know? So yeah, I'm very happy with this. I do wish I could have gotten a little bit more light on this little effect part right here, like in the cover. It's very white and bright, and I just had too many lights going on to get that done. In the cover, you actually see that the top of the Ironmonger has a really nice yellow and orange glow, and that presents kind of a problem when you're trying to, you know, translate that over the shot, because then you're going to get the Iron Man all orange and everything. But it turns out that's not really the case. So what I've done is I've just set my camera on a timer, got my Ulanzi orange light right here. I'll set it on the timer, and then it'll go off for 3 seconds, and then I finally get that nice little orange glow off the top of them, and it actually doesn't affect that Iron Man too much either. So, you know, sometimes you got to set the timer just because, you know, you actually need your hands to hold a light or something like that. But and it's funny because I just learned how to use the timer like 2-3 months ago. I should have known this shit like years ago, but you know, still learning new shit about the camera and about toy photography. So I'm not going to show you guys another angle. This is pretty much everything that's going on. I can show you guys the couple lights. I'm using that big ass soft box right here. Got another Ulanzi back there, a couple of the panel minis. Lots of lights going on around here to, you know, light up the background, light up the figures. You know, when you're shooting this kind of low light stuff or trying to get the, you know, a little bit of the darkness kind of tone to the shot, you still got to light the figures up like crazy, because if you don't light them up enough, you're not going to get your figures in focus for your camera, which is extremely annoying. So, and then what we're going to do with this one, of course, is I'm going to send this off to my buddy, Lord Tuitanis. I actually never heard him say his name, but I'll put a link to his Instagram below. This guy is like a wizard with toy photography, with the photoshopping. I mean, there's some times when I'm looking at his shots and I'll look in his like seaside, and I didn't even realize he had like shot something in there. So he like doesn't only have the talent for actually taking action figure shots, but he actually has the talent of photoshopping stuff too. So he's like double talented. Anyways, he's gonna take this for me, and he is going to basically transfer over the text from the cover, which is not something I'm really able to do on my end. It is something I want to learn eventually, but he's just so good at it, and he does it in almost like 0 time. So he's going to transfer that text over, and we're actually going to take this little shot that we've done here, and we're actually going to transform it into an actual comic book cover, which is going to look really cool. We obviously saw this earlier in the video with the Spider-Man No More cover, so this is pretty cool. This is like definitely one of my favorite things to do with toy photography, is to make these little classic covers. But yeah, so that's what's going to happen with this, and yeah, let's take a look at the finished shot with all the text overlays and everything. It's going to be awesome. Alright, I got a little X-Force shot here. I was playing around with my original X-Force team, you know, Cable, Boom Boom, all of those guys, and it got me thinking about the comic, and I actually started reading the first issue, and I actually found a full cover version of the comic online, and I just printed it out real small and made like a little comic book out of it. I thought it was pretty cool. So that got me thinking, like, what would be funny, and of course I went to Deadpool. I was like, oh, Deadpool it would be hilarious. Deadpool is reading the first issue of X-Force. So I pulled out all the modern X-Force figures here, and I know this is not an actual team. I don't think X-23 was ever on a team with Deathlock, I don't believe, or Phantom X. I'm not 100% sure. It should be Psylocke, but I just thought the expression on this X-23 looked a lot better. So I just kind of went with it, and we kind of got like a little huddle. They're all kind of like looking at the first issue of X-Force. I thought it was kind of funny. Very simple setup here. We got the black background. I got some lights that are pointing towards the figure to give them a nice little backlighting, kind of make them stand out a little bit more, because you know there are parts of these figures that are black, so we don't want to get those too mixed in with the background. And then of course I'm working with the very, very large, I don't know if I'll be able to, very large, oh wow, the very large soft box, which is kind of cool. Of course we got the Ulanzi, which surprisingly didn't take them all out here. That's hilarious. Well, they got Wolverine a little bit, but he got the healing factor, so they're gonna be fine. But yeah, I'm just kind of giving you guys an idea of the lights that I am using here. A couple of Ulanzis, some backlights. Very simple setup. Of course, the Deadpool here, I had to tack the comic book onto his hands. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to show you guys that, but you can see blue tack right there. You know, he does have the holding hands, but they don't hold the book very well, unfortunately. So we kind of got the tack on there, just kind of keep everything in place. And when we're messing with these lights, we don't want to get the lights too close to the comic, because then we see it starts fading out the little cutout here. You know, even though it is supposed to be like a little smaller comic, you still have to kind of treat it as a cutout. So I always say in my videos that if you're working with a cutout, make sure you got your lights positioned correctly, because you can kind of blast it with a little bit too much light, and it starts to kind of fade out a little bit. So you got to be careful with how you're using the lights. So a lot of the lights are actually coming from above, pointing down. So this book is kind of at an angle. So if you got your light coming downward on all your figures, it's not really going to hit underneath up towards the comic here. So that's kind of working out here. Kind of just got them all vanilla posed for the most part. It was kind of hard situating Deathlock and Phantom X back there, and trying to get them as close as I could to looking at the comic book. It was kind of hard squeezing everybody in together right here, but I just upped my f-stop. I think I was at f16, and I made sure to just blast it with a shitload of light, because you know when you're working with the f-stop and you really want to get everything in focus, you got to make sure you just got a shitload of light on the figures, because the lower the light, the less focused everyone's going to come out. And I think with that high f-stop and a lot of light, I think everybody for the most part came out in focus, including the comic book. So that is definitely a win. So I'm not going to show you guys too much more of this setup. This is basically it. This is just like the bare bones little setup. But you know, I say it all the time, you know, you don't really need expensive diodes or any of that shit to really get a cool picture. You just need a shitload of lights, and some backgrounds. This is just black felt back here, nothing crazy, and voila, you got yourself a little shot. Just make sure everything's nice and posed and you're good. Alright guys, well thanks for checking out the video. I had a lot of fun recreating those comic covers. I think we did Amazing Spider-Man number 50, the first appearance of Kingpin, and then we did Iron Man number 200, which is actually not the first appearance of the Silver Centurion Iron Man. It's actually the death of Ironmonger. I think Silver Centurion actually first appeared in West Coast Avengers number 1. So I might have said that it was the first appearance earlier, but I was incorrect, and I'm an idiot. Anyways, I had a lot of fun. Make sure you're subscribing, you're liking. Check out my Instagram if you want to see a more minimal version of the behind the scenes I do here, but in Reels format over there. I really appreciate you guys checking this out, and leave a comment below if you guys enjoyed any of this stuff or you plan on getting into toy photography, or hit me up on Instagram if you got some questions, man. I'm always available on Instagram, private message, however you want to do that. Appreciate you guys' time, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode of the Watchtower series.